Good morning. Good morning, guys. I'm going to give it a couple minutes for some people to come in. That gives me time to pull up all my information that I need to share with you. It's going to be a quick live stream because I've got lots of things to do today, like fold laundry. But for those of you who were not able to join in on the Franklin Institute of Wellness webinar yesterday, I wanted to come on here and kind of give a recap of that webinar. You can go back and watch the replay of the webinar. I have linked that in the description of this video. So if you want to watch the actual webinar from yesterday from the Franklin Institute of Wellness, you can do that. Just the description of this video has a link. And they also have a ongoing updated website of important information. If you don't know what the Franklin Institute of Wellness is, it is an extension of the herb school that I have done my studies through and continue to do my studies through. So let me pull up everything real quick. And I'm just kind of regurgitating what she said yesterday, plus some notes that I took and some information that I wanted to share with you. I have a lot of people blowing up my inbox regularly, so this is just a way for me to not have to spend my life. Hi, Lorraine. Hi, Brad. To individually getting to everybody. So it was a really great webinar. Again, if you want to watch the actual webinar, go in the link below and you can watch her webinar over again. But I'm going to get started. So today we're just going to go over the actual virus. I'm not going to say the virus name because YouTube will completely get rid of the video for some reason. I don't know why. How it's working, how we've been able to study it so far. And basically kind of explaining it to you more. I feel like a lot of followers, if they understand the actual virus, it helps get rid of some fear. And I'm also wanted to talk to you a little bit about the recent isolation that we're going through here in America. So the first, we're going to kind of debunk some myths here too. So the first thing I want to talk about is we actually, you hear this is an old person's virus, and it's true that older people are more susceptible to dying, but they're not necessarily more susceptible to getting it. In fact, there are some studies in South Korea and Italy that are showing the most people that are contracting the virus are actually between the ages of 20 and 29. And so if that's the case, what's happening is these people are getting it and they get some sniffles, a cough, they feel fine. Otherwise they might have a fever, but then what's happening is they're going out into public and they are transferring it to other people, to more susceptible people, and on surfaces that people touch and then get infected. So the reason that you're seeing countries start doing quarantines, it's not really quarantine. It's not quarantine unless you're literally not allowed to leave your house like China did. The United States is just doing self-isolation. So it's not a bad thing, because unfortunately in modern America, when we're sick, we still go to work, we still go to the grocery store, and we spread illness. And so that's what we're trying to do. So not do. So what the United States is trying to do is, so when you, like in China and Italy, you see this flat line and then it goes up, way, way up, and it stays up for a long time. So what the United States is trying to do is not have that huge spike in deaths, this huge spike in transmitting disease. So they're just asking people to stay home. And so because of that, it doesn't flood our hospitals as bad. So we're basically trying to, this virus is bad, and there's a lot of people that are going to flood the hospitals because of it. But there are also other issues of people that need to have medical attention. And if the hospitals are attending to all of these other people, they can't focus on people who need it because they've had a heart attack or a stroke, or they do get the flu and they're having complications from that. So just keep that in mind when you're like why are we here? Why are we having to be home? That's why. So in the largest study available on this virus, 86.6% of the patients were aged 30 through 79. So the median age was actually 47. So every single person is susceptible to getting the virus. That doesn't mean every person is susceptible to dying. We know this. People with secondary health conditions, and we're going to get to that in a second. People that are older. It's not even necessarily people that are older. It's just people who are generally unhealthy. So symptoms are fever, dry cough, fatigue. 87%, almost 88% actually, of people who come in, they all have a fever. Hi, Lisa. 67.7% have a dry cough. 38.1% have fatigue. And the list goes on from there. There are, for you people making fun of the toilet paper people, 3% of people who get the virus have diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, lots of different things going on with this virus. And that's why people are concerned, because in some cases, so we've done a study right now where it actually shows that the virus is being shed through feces, which is kind of like, what? That's like an Ebola thing, so they're watching that closely, to see how that's going to go. It doesn't mean that it's being spread through feces as well, but we don't know until we test it, and we haven't had time to test it yet. So there's a lot of different things happening with this virus, which is why people aren't really quite sure what to do with it. So medical professionals are having a hard time figuring out how to control it. So keep in mind, this is a brand new virus. That's why everyone is freaking out, because we don't know what to do with it. We've never had it before, so we don't have antibodies built up. So we're just trying to figure out what it is. So an emphasis is on individuals of 65 or older, because they are a little bit generally the group of people who have more secondary conditions that could cause issues. So, and we can't just focus on the death rate, like the overall death rate. We have to focus on the disabilities as well. So it's not just, oh my gosh, people are dying. It's, how many people are recovering from it but are going to have limited lung function? How many people are going to recover from it, but 2 years from now, they're going to get asthma for the rest of their lives? We don't know the repercussions of the virus yet. We don't know anything like that. So it doesn't matter what age, you keep hearing it's an old person's disease. People are dying because they're older, but what are the repercussions of the virus? So see, that's a concern as well that we need to take into consideration. Now, before I go on, this virus is always going to be here. Okay, so that's something that we need to just chill out about and think about. It's always going to be here. Now that it's here, it's going to be here for forever, just like the flu. The issue isn't the virus. I mean, it kind of is right now because we're trying to study it and help prevent it. The issue is, overflow of hospitals. We've never had to deal with it before. And we don't have it spread out across a year. We're just dealing with it all at one mass time right there. Junior, why don't you put him in his truck and ride him around? So in other words, what I was saying is young people are getting the virus, but they're becoming biohazards for older adults. So one of the things you keep hearing is, well, we survived H1N1. Well, we survived Ebola. Well, we survived all these things. So in a situation of mass crisis, like these viruses, I see this constantly on Facebook. Well, we survived these, we'll survive this. And that's probably very true. But what happens is, sorry, for some reason the baby's crying, and I'm not sure why. What happens is we survived them by the grace of God, but we also survived them because the medical system did what it was supposed to do. It helped isolate people. It helped learn the virus and control the virus. And so the reason H1N1 and other viruses did not spread as bad is because we were more on top of it. People say, well, we didn't die. It's because public health did exactly what it was supposed to do. Because of that, people think this is an overreaction. But there's a quote, I should have pulled it. I didn't pull it before I got on here, where, it says in the terms of a crisis, when a crisis is happening, basically, if you don't do anything and something happens worse, then it's all your fault. It's all the government and medical field's fault. But if they do something, it's seen as an overreaction because they did their job, they did what they were supposed to do, and everybody's healthy again. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about all of these other viruses that have happened. Now, are there viruses that have been blown out of proportion? Yes. For example, measles, completely blown out of proportion in a lot of ways. But this is not the case here. So this virus can last hours on surfaces, but moisture helps keep the virus alive longer on a surface. So people are concerned about packages in the mail, things like that. Yes, it can survive on cardboard and paper, cash, things like that. Junior, bring him here, please. But it's actually surviving longer and more transmittable on surfaces that hold moisture. So skin to skin contact, wet, like the sink, things like that. Junior, bring him here. Sorry, having to be mom and this for some reason. Okay, so turn the TV off. You're not allowed to watch TV. Yeah, I am. No, you're not. And you can come back for him in a second. So viruses can only replicate inside of a living cell. If we aren't out and around each other, the virus can't spread, which is why, the government is talking about this. So we're trying, oh my goodness, we're trying not to spread the virus via fomites. Fomites. Do you know what fomites are? So a fomite is a non-living object that spreads disease, like a doorknob, a doorbell, a cell phone, ATM, steering wheel. So when you are looking, if you're like me and you're looking at studies that are happening and you see the word fomite, that's what it is. So I wanted to touch on that real quick. There's also R0 or R0 that you're going to see. That is the number of people. Oh my goodness. So R0 or R0 is the number of people one sick person infects. Junior, come get him. I thought he was going to be quiet if I held him. And take him to the bedroom. Thank you. Because you're not playing with him. So take toys. Brother was watching TV instead of playing. Okay, now let's see. Let's get back on track here. So if you're reading these studies, a fomite is a non-living object that spreads disease, doorknob, doorbell, steering wheel, your phone. Please sterilize your phone when you come back home. So if you're reading the studies, that's what a fomite is. The R0 is the number of people one sick person infects. So, and that is, he is a good big brother. It is unique to the disease in the individual community. It changes. It is not a constant. Okay. So the R0 in New York is not the same in a rural community. So the amount of people that you could affect if you live in New York is different than the amount of people that you could affect if you lived here in rural Virginia. So it's different environmental factors, density, it makes a difference. So, and then CFR, these are the three things you need to consider when you're reading these studies, is case fatality rate. It is specific to a population and is not a constant. So when you guys heard me say the other day that Italy had a 6% death rate the other day, but the rest of the world didn't. See that it's specific to that area and that community. It's the proportion of deaths caused by the disease among those who have the disease over a general given time interval. So let me go back up here. Let's see. I want to touch on the 1918 flu. We have a lot of people comparing this to the 1918 flu. And we want to talk about some herbal remedies, which I don't have any. Let me just put that out there. And a couple of other things so right now the United States is doing studies on people that are in the hospital that have the virus. And interestingly enough, they're trying all kinds of remedies. They're trying herbal remedies. They're trying Chinese medicine. But the most prospective product, and the one that's doing the best in these trials, is actually anti-malarial drugs, which is which is quite interesting. They're currently in top ranking of being most efficient in treating the virus. So here you have a virus that is fever, cough, which is presenting itself a lot like whooping cough. But then you have where it can spread into pneumonia. And then you have where the virus is shedding through feces. And then you have these anti-malarial drugs that are fighting it. All of it's quite interesting, and it just proves that we really don't know what it is. Okay. So when you see mass hysteria is caused by being too aware of what's going on. Okay. Has the media caused mass hysteria? Yes. But people in general have caused mass hysteria. We took information and suddenly it was the end of the world. If we would have all just kind of gone to the store and gotten what we needed, it wouldn't have been as bad. But when people start seeing shelves empty, no meat, no eggs, no bread, no milk, it causes mass hysteria. I would linger to say that caused more mass hysteria than the learning about the virus itself, because the virus itself isn't extremely scary. The virus is going to be here for the rest of our lives. There's no eradicating it. The reason it looks scarier right now is because we've never gotten it before. And so everybody in the world is getting it. And through basic natural selection is what it is. The virus targets people who have issues, who have serious issues. So next year when it comes around again, you won't see that peak. It's going to be like the flu, how we watch the flu, kind of peak. Okay, it's peak flu season, and then it goes back down again. That's kind of what it's going to be like. Since it's gone through all of us this year, it's going to be less next year. Now, if we make a vaccine for it, it's another story for another day. That's whatever. I don't care what your stance is on vaccine, but vaccines can, and they've been scientifically proven to cause your body to be more susceptible to getting a virus if there's a new strain of it. So your body becomes more susceptible to getting the new strain, but not the old strain, if that makes any sense. So just keep that in mind as they're working on vaccines and stuff. So I want to touch on the 1918 flu real quick. A lot of people are saying, well, this is like the 1918 flu. That's not true at all. A lot of people are going back to the elderberry thing, saying elderberry causes cytokine storms, and that could kill people. That's a complete and total myth. Cytokines, so elderberry is a regulator and it's a modulator is what we call it. And it actually, if cytokines are too high, it lowers them. If cytokines are too low, it raises them. Could elderberry cause a cytokine storm in this virus? Most likely not. I would venture to say highly likely not, just from the studies that I've read. But people can't say that. And Jessie, who did the webinar, she has a PhD. She's a great doctor. She's not going to sit there and say no, and she's not going to say yes because we've not studied it yet. So that's just that's her job to be neutral on it. But the spreading of information that cytokine storms, elderberry creates them, is complete and total half truth. What actually happened in 1918 with the flu, we had just come out with aspirin. And because, the flu pandemic was happening, people had high fevers, the government told the people to take aspirin to keep their fever down. It would help them feel better. Well, what was actually happening is aspirin was causing respiratory distress. And we weren't finding that out until just recently in the research that we've been doing. So aspirin had, come on the market. The government said, okay, take it. It's going to reduce your fever. It's going to make you feel better. It was actually killing people. It was actually causing oxidation in the lungs. It was causing respiratory distress, and people were dying because of the aspirin because they were taking it regularly. So anything can cause respiratory distress depending on the type of virus. But which is why, people are wanting to research this more. But I just wanted to throw that out there because a lot of people were saying, well, it might have been herbal remedies. It wasn't. It was aspirin. So it's actually proven in the recent research that people died from taking aspirin during the 1918 flu pandemic than actually dying from the flu because it was causing respiratory failure. So we don't know if elderberry and other herbs will prevent the virus until we study it specifically to this virus. There are things we can obviously do to help boost our immune system. I would continue to take your elderberry. If you're taking an elderberry and astragalus syrup, I would continue taking it. Obviously, if you have an autoimmune disease, that's something you need to consider. Anybody with an autoimmune disease, any adaptogen or immune boosting herb can cause your autoimmune issue to flare up. But from all the people I know with autoimmune diseases, that has not happened with elderberry. So the United States, unfortunately, does not have centralized data for epidemiologists on a regular basis. We don't collect enough data in our medical system, which is a really big issue for the United States. So it's extremely possible that the virus was here before January. This is another question that I get. Well, was it here before January? I think it could have been. This happened. It's happened before where we've had virus outbreaks and epidemics, and then we not know about it. And because the United States doesn't collect enough data, and then Canada has gotten it and figured out it came from the United States. And then that's when we decide to do testing. So it is possible that it was here before January, but just keep in mind that when we saw this virus start in China, that's if China actually, reported it properly. When we saw it in China, it was like cases and then it soared. The number of deaths just soared very, very quickly. We've not seen that in the United States. A lot of people are saying, well, what if it were the flu? What if people had the flu and were dying, but it was actually this? We have actually had a really mild flu season this year. We have not had a very bad flu season. We've had people get the flu, but we haven't had nearly as many deaths as in the past. So what happened in China is that they started seeing a huge rise in pneumonia deaths. And they were like, wait a second, something's not right here. And that's when they started testing and discovered the virus. Vitamin C is great, Lorraine. I would continue to take vitamin C. There's people in China that are saying they were doing intravenous vitamin C to help. There's actually been no proof of that at all. We're actually testing that. We are intravenously testing vitamin C, and it doesn't seem to be working the way that China said it was working. Now, to prevent the virus, yes, it could certainly prevent it. Any immune boosting herb and supplement will help prevent the virus. But don't be surprised if you get it. You know what I mean? So, and it's not the end of the world if you do, for most people. So just keep that in mind. What else? And like I said, we expect the virus to stay around until, well, for the rest of time. I wanted to go over a couple of things with you. A lot of people are concerned about who can be. So I want to talk to you about how the virus is working. So on week 1, you're contagious. You have a fever, dry cough, fatigue. You often cough. You have congestion and other symptoms. Okay, that's week 1. Week 2 is where people either start getting healthy again or people start getting worse. So that's when pneumonia would begin, decreased oxygen saturation, blood gas deviations, mild infections, including walking pneumonia. So when you hear on the news people say, well, you have mild infection, it's actually walking pneumonia that they're talking about. The median time to recovery is 2 weeks for mild cases and 3 to 6 weeks for severe and critical cases. Symptom onset to death is 2 to 8 weeks. So that's the issue. So with the flu, you have it. A lot of the death and issues that arise happen in the first 2 weeks. But with this virus, it's actually spreading out over 6 to 8 weeks that people need care. So if me, a healthy individual, I go out, I contract it, and I spread it to an unhealthy individual, then that unhealthy individual is going to the hospital. They're most likely getting placed in ICU, and they're not there for 2 weeks. They're there for 6 to 8 weeks. So what happens when the 100 other people who need treatment come in and there's no ventilators and there's no beds and for 6 weeks? So that's why people are, taking it a little more seriously. Underlying health conditions, I thought this was really interesting. So out of the deaths, the highest, most susceptible were people with cardiovascular disease. So 10.5% of the people had cardiovascular disease. Next is diabetes at 7.3%. Next is chronic respiratory disease at 6.5%, hypertension at 6%, and cancer was actually at the bottom of the list at 5.6%. People with no core, secondary conditions were only at 0.9%. So I thought that was a really interesting tidbit of information. Mean incubation period is 6.4 days, but it can range from 0 to 24 days. So just keep that in mind if you've been exposed. 2 weeks in isolation actually isn't long enough, which is why you're seeing a lot of states go to like 6 or 8 weeks of isolation, which I expect most of the country to do. So this means that what we do today won't be seen, like our preventions today won't be seen throughout the country until next week or even the week after. So our actions are running 1 to 2 weeks behind the outcomes, but the rates of infection are doubling every 2 to 7 days, depending on the region. So just keep that in mind real quick. Oh my goodness. Let's see here. Didn't realize I was going to need a moderator for this. Uh-oh, the baby's crying. What happened?
He was playing with a flashlight and hit himself in the head. Right here. It's right there.
All right, and let's see if there's anything else. Well, I think that's my cue that I'm done. Between the poor baby hitting himself in the head. Why don't you take him and give him some snacks? Give him some snacks. There's some snacks right there. Yes, flashlights do hurt when you hit yourself in the head. I did have a couple slides I wanted to get through real quick, and then I'm going to get off here. So recent studies have also shown that presymptomatic transmission appears to be occurring specifically through families and local social gatherings. This differs from other viruses such as SARS and MERS. With this virus, patients are presenting with high viral loads while experiencing few to no symptoms. So keep that. Little Mountain Life, I am going to make you a moderator just because I don't really have a lot of moderators. I've never really needed them. This was something I posted on my Facebook page yesterday that I thought was really interesting. So cleaning your hands, removing microbes, sanitizing. A lot of people are going to buy antibacterial soap or hand sanitizer. You don't actually have to. Cleansing does not require special products. It does not even require soap. In a 2011 study on children in rural Bangladesh, there was no significant difference found between children who used soap when compared to those who did not. Sanitizing requires 60% alcohol, so you can actually use rubbing alcohol if you can't find hand sanitizer. But if you were to just rub your hands into running water and create friction like this, it actually gets rid of the microbes just the same. So fun tidbit of information there for you. Is that all I needed? I think I made it through all my slides. Yay. And the baby only had a meltdown twice. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask them real quick while the baby's being quiet. And then I'm going to get off here and do regular mom and homesteader stuff today. But if you have questions, let me know. Somebody had said up here, I wonder if baby aspirin may be contributing to those numbers. And they could be. I mean, if people are taking aspirin religiously during this virus, but keep in mind, this virus isn't the same as the 1918 virus. But it could be. I mean, it could be contributing to higher rates of death or higher rates of severe mild conditions. We don't know because it is so new. We haven't been able to test any of it yet. Again, I would recommend that you continue to take immune boosting supplements and herbs. But let me just speak to, there are a lot of people capitalizing on this. There are a lot of herbalists saying, oh, I have the magic remedy for you. Here it is. Or there's a lot of people, oh my gosh, well-known herbalists saying, I found the secret here, buy my tincture or buy this, that, run away from it. You can't look at antiviral herbs and think that because they work for the flu that they're going to work for this. Just like the antiviral herbs that they used for 1918 don't necessarily work with the flu, or they worked for the flu, but not for 1918. So if you're seeing people say, oh, I know how to fix it, here, take this, or here, buy this, they're charlatans. Just run away from them. Just get away from it. Responsible herbalists are going to tell you exactly what I've done. You can boost your immune system. I'm not going to tell you how to cure it because I don't know how to cure it. We've not studied it long enough. I like scientific, evidence-based information. I do not go off folk method of anything. I do not go off of, well, if this worked for this, then it's going to work for that. No, every virus is different. Every person's body is different. Every person reacts differently to it. Every person has different secondary conditions. We can't do these blanket things like, oh, here it is. Here you go. Everybody take it. Okay, well, what if that person has high blood pressure and what you put in there is going to kill them? So stay away from people like that. It's not good. It's going to end up killing somebody. And it's the reason why the FDA wants to regulate herbalism and natural remedies so much. Because people like this are just waiting. They're just jumping on the next opportunity to sell their product or to sell their bulk herbs or to sell their self-published book or whatever. So, all right. If you have questions, you can send them to me. You can comment on the video once it processes. Otherwise, I'm going to get off here. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up on the Homesteaders of America channel next week. So I'm going to record some of those videos today. And make sure you subscribe to Dexter freaking out to the HOA channel and to this channel for more updates. Hope you guys have a great day.